reinstate the new window. You've got your carry packers down low. It's nice and level. You're packing out the side, so it's nice and straight. It just slips in there beautifully. G'day, welcome to the Make It With Myles podcast, where we talk about all things related to building and construction through the lens of a builder. As well as that, we also talk about the real estate industry through the lens of a building inspector. On top of that, we also dabble in a little bit of personal development. Reason being is because we all should get better, we should be better, we should be better relationships, better friendships, better businesses, better families, all those types of things. And if you better yourself, you better the world, and that's the plan of it. So we have two formats to the podcast. We have the shed and we also have the journey. Have a guess which one's which, you'll figure it out. So on this episode, we will be talking about replacing existing windows. All right, everyone froths new windows. People don't understand that it is actually a very costly process, and there's a bit of sort of work associated with it and sort of different people associated with it, but it can be done yourself. You just need to follow some simple steps and understand where the tolerances and risks are associated with it, which we're going to have a bit of a chinwag about. So first things first, why would people want to replace their windows? Well, it's pretty simple. When it's freezing cold outside and you're in an old as shit house and you stand against the window, you can feel the shivering coldness make its way through that single pane 3mm bit of glass you've got in front of you. And guess what? That's going to make your house absolutely freezing. And we want our house to be warm and cozy to keep the ladies of the house nice and happy, because that's what we're all about. So replacing windows, people obviously want to do it if they've got sort of maybe they're doing some alterations to the property. They want to make it look better. They want to help the thermal qualities of the property itself. Maybe they've got old timber windows, they're knackered, they've got to replace them, things like that. There's many different ways to do it. So we're going to talk about how the process would look. Okay, so obviously there's like 1,000 different circumstances here, but we're going to try and sort of expand on things to consider, all right, through these simple steps, and that should sort of help give some clarity as to what's required. So this should be pretty short and sweet. I'm going to get through it. Okay, so first things first, understand the cladding system and why. So what is cladding? Cladding is what you clad the house in. It's what the external building element is. It might be brickwork, it might be weatherboards, it might be tin, it might be cement sheet. I don't know. It could be heaps of things, all right? So you want to understand these things, and the reasons why is that's going to actually determine the type of window system you actually install. So windows come in all different types of shapes and sizes and profiles. So profiles is the big one, all right? With brick veneer, it's different to weatherboard. It can all change and alter. So so when you're actually going out to these window companies, just let them know what type of system you got in place. And as well as that, you're going to understand the difference of your reveal depth. Okay, so obviously bricks are quite thicker than weatherboards. So the inside of the window itself is going to have a different sort of reveal. Okay, so some walls have a cavity as well, so they'll go up against the backside of the brick, and you'll have like a 40-50 mil cavity, and then you have the timber frame itself. Weatherboards, you'll have no cavity, it just goes straight to the weatherboard. So you need like the actual reveal itself, which is when you're on the inside, that sort of timber frame that is the reveal, to give some clarity. This is what we're sort of talking about. So you need to understand these types of things and just translate that to the window company that you're getting prices off, so they deliver the right window frames, because you don't want the reveal to be too short. It's a pain in the ass to extend it. And if it's too long, it's just extra work. You've got to cut it down. It's a pain in the ass again. Now, you want to understand the window system that you want, because they all differ, all right? You've got aluminium window systems, you've got UPVC, you've got quadruple glaze systems, you've got European windows, you've got timber window frames. You got all this shit, all right? So you just want to understand and get more or less a section detail of how the window looks as is installed. And all window companies should be able to provide this. It is simply a cut through section. You'll see the window reveal, you'll see the actual frame and the components themselves, the external cladding systems and how that's going to work, just to make sure what you're measuring to and the dimensions that you're giving these companies is accurate. Because the reveal dimensions of a window frame, which is the internal timber frame, can be different to the actual frame outside. Okay, it can step in. This is very common with brick veneer systems, where we've got hard to bloody show you. We'll talk about it. But the window reveal is bigger than the actual frame itself. Okay, because usually you put the windows in. Okay, and then you brick up to the aluminium frame or whatever it is that is adjacent to the brickwork itself. So you want to understand all these types of things. You've obviously got your reveal depth, understand that. And then you want to measure the external opening 12 times, all right? Measure 12 times, order once, because windows are like 50 grand to do a whole house. They're not very cheap, all right? So just make sure that you really translate and communicate with these suppliers of the situation. In some situations, you can get the supplier to come out and actually measure it themselves. But what you want to be measuring is, if you've got a brick, especially with brick veneer, it's a very straightforward process. You want to be measuring in between the brickwork, okay? You want to be giving those dimensions, and do not make it millimeter tight. Give yourself some clearance. They do come with these little weather strips that sort of slide into place. Worst case scenario, you can add flashings later if you made it a little bit too small. If you're making it too big, you're cutting brickwork, it's looking shit, it's a horrible process. Trust me, we all make mistakes. Young apprentice Myles made those mistakes and he fucked up. So I don't recommend you do the same thing because it's hard to make it look good. So yeah, you want to be measuring externally to those sort of building elements, all right? As well as that, the process of sort of removing windows and installing them, what it actually looks like is internally you would be removing all the architraves, cutting out all the fixings in places. Usually it's just nailed to the side. Most of the time there's no nails up or down. It's just to the side. Cut them out, get your Recipro blades, get your multi-tools, get a little hacksaw, whatever you want to do to make your life hard, and then you want to just simply pull it out internally, okay? That's usually the process of how it looks. Once that comes out, it's pretty easy then to see how that sort of building elements will work. You can understand the depth of the cavity, all those types of things. Then with that, obviously, yeah, the window's out, and then you want to install your new system. So because you've measured that brickwork opening, then you know that it's going to just slip into that place. Internally, depending on the system itself, you might have to do a bit of chop suey and take some of the frame out just to allow, like, maybe it's got these massive thick reveals. I'm not too sure. It depends on the actual system itself. Most of the time, it's a pretty straightforward process. You just take the architraves off. You can cut the plasterboard back to the frame, remove the window, reinstate the new window. You've got your kerry packers down low. It's nice and level. You're packing out the sides so it's nice and straight. It just slips in there beautifully. Then you fix off to the sides. Then you reinstate all your architraves. Externally is a very important part. What I find a lot is that externally it's never done as good as it could be or as good as it should be. So they do have these weather seals in place, which is great. You need to make sure those weather seals are sitting on top of the brick sill, which is a little bricks that sort of go down, so the water hits, goes over the little seal onto the sill and then off onto the ground, okay? And then on the side you have these little seals again, which helps. It's just a little press sort of fitting that just goes and slides in, and that just sort of slips into place. If you have issues with the gap's too big and stuff like that, all you do is you just get some flashings made up, okay? So you go to like a roofing supplier that does flashings. You give them the dimensions, you tell them what color you want the side on, whatever it is, and then you just either Sikaflex and just some mechanical fixings, which might be some pot rivets and stuff like that, and you just seal it up as best as practicable, okay? Make sure when you're sealing up around the windows, it's important to do this from a thermal quality point of view, so the air isn't going up and through and making your house freezing cold again, because it just defeats the purpose of the new windows. But also make sure that the window systems themselves, some of them do have like drains and stuff like that, so you don't want to be sealing up all these little nooks and holes and stuff like that on the window frame itself, because that is how the water gets into the track and then gets its way out. If you start sealing that up, the water gets into the track and then it goes up into your house, and again, you're causing dramas for yourself. So be mindful when you want to replace these window systems. It is a costly job. It's something you really want to just get into it, attack it. If you're measuring them all up, I would recommend taking off the architraves first and just having a good look in to understand how the system works. Again, companies that do provide windows also can provide an installation as well. They're not going to be cutting brickwork out. They're not going to be doing things like that. They're literally just going to come up, measure it, remove it, reinstate it, okay? So the rest of the process is pretty straightforward. It's just sort of general carpentry. Sometimes I've found in some situations where the window's a little bit smaller, or the reveals are a bit smaller, and just how it's designed. Usually when you take out like a timber window and you sort of put a different type of system in, your architraves might not fit, so you might just get wider architraves to cover that gap, all right? Before you do all that stuff, before you do sort of put those architraves back on, again, to help with that insulation quality, expander foam, mate. Old mate expander foam in and around that window frame just to help seal it up, cut it all back, and then stick over your your architraves is a very good solution to help, again, mitigate that air getting through that cavity space. So these are some things to consider when you are replacing your existing windows. I hope this provided some value to you. If it did, give it a bloody rating. If not, that's all good. I don't really mind, to be honest. Other than that, we will see you on the next one. And yeah, give us a follow on Instagram, all sort of stuff. We're going to, again, increase this sort of content. We've seen that it's actually providing a lot of value to just the general people and a lot of people in the industry itself. So if you're in the industry yourself and you listen to some of these boring ones which you already know about, my apologies. If you're a novice and you have to hear all the stuff about the people in the industry, too bad. Maybe you should join us and have some fun. Other than that, I will see you on the next one. Hooroo.